Deconstructing the subject means being aware of those historical components. As you know, since we were here in the context of the battle fought by Amnesty International, Amnesty International refers itself in its very chart to a Declaration of Universal Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And as you know, this Declaration of Human Rights has itself a history. It hasn't been given for once. There has been a number of such declarations from the French Revolution on. But of course, in England, they or you suppose that before the French Revolution, you had already a concept of human rights, the Magna Carta, and so on and so forth. But since the first declaration as such of the human rights, a number of other declarations have transformed and determined more and more the formal concept of human rights. At the beginning, the human being was defined or determined as the owner of his or her own property with no sexual determination. The right to work, for instance, was not inscribed in the first declarations. So during almost 2 centuries now, there has been a number of such declarations trying to redefine and to determine more and more specifically what the human rights are, so determining what the subject is. The subject is not simply a formal identity. Is the child a subject? Is a woman a subject? Is a non-European individual a subject? So deconstructing the subject is taking into account all the determinations and trying, that's why it's not a threat to the human rights, trying to improve the concept of the human subject.
The way you put it suggests to me that it might almost be fair to couple the phrase, the deconstruction of the subject, with the sort of counterbalancing phrase, and the reconstruction, perhaps the continual ongoing reconstruction of the subject. I'm led to think of this by the way you talk of the constant battle to improve our understanding and perhaps to add to our, enrich our concepts of what constitute human rights. Because if you link, you must tell me if I've understood this point correctly, but if you link the concept of human rights to the concept of the human subject in the way in which you have done, and then one goes on to talk of the enrichment of one's understanding of human rights, this amounts, of course, to an enrichment, an ongoing transformation of the concept of the human subject itself. So that what has turned into really the sort of slogan, as many people now use the phrase, the deconstruction or the deconstruction of the subject, if we're to stick to the level of slogans, maybe should be replaced in its turn. It should be deconstructed in its turn, and we should add the term reconstruction. I don't know.
I don't mind dropping the word deconstruction. I say this from the beginning. I have no special attachment to this word, but now it is used. So I don't want simply to get rid of of the work which has been done. I think a positive work which has been done under this word, this title. But from the beginning, I was not. I was a little surprised by let's say the fortune, the good fortune or the bad fortune of this word. Now, nevertheless, I would not simply replace deconstruction by reconstruction, because reconstruction would simply stay within a given space in which we're supposed to know what has to be done and what are the foundations on which we have to construct, to reconstruct, to build. And I don't think anything is firmly assured, firmly grounded in this area. First of all, of course, I won't bore you with the discussions on the word deconstruction, but I would simply say this. First, it is necessary, I would say, and that's part of the discussion, of free discussion, of modern task, of modern enlightenment, not to rely on slogans. When you hear deconstruction of the subject, this is a slogan. Usually it's used by people who want to avoid the what they consider the threat coming from deconstruction. So, well, deconstruction is simply a negative project which undermines everything and doesn't leave anything in place, and we have to reject this. I've constantly, I'm not the only one to do that, but I've constantly insisted on the contrary, on the fact that deconstruction was mainly affirmation. Affirmation doesn't mean reconstruction, doesn't mean position, something positive, but it means a constant reference to a yes. Yes, I speak to you, I address you, I listen to you, and so it's a thinking of the affirmation. Now, this affirmation is not simply reconstruction. When you use the word reconstruction in a given context, of course, you imply that something which is precious to you has been threatened or destroyed, and you have to simply rebuild. No, it's not a matter of rebuilding. It's a matter of going further, displacing, changing, and changing the world, or changing society, changing the state of things in terms of human rights, for instance, is not simply reconstructing. It's constructing something else, something other. And deconstruction is, if it is an ethics, I'm a little suspicious by the word ethics. I don't want to scare you, but I'm a little suspicious about the word reconstruction too, and ethics. Nevertheless, if you call this an ethics of affirmation, it implies that you are attentive to otherness, to the alterity of the other, to something new and other. That's why when I refer to, for instance, to democracy, we have to speak on democracy today, because the very concept of human rights as an essential link to an ideal of democracy. I immediately add democracy to come, not democracy as we know it, not democracy as a reliable state of things in our wonderful Western societies. Democracy has to be improved, and at the core of the idea of democracy, there is a promise, there is some openness to the future, and the openness to the future and the openness to the other implies that you don't simply reconstruct. You don't simply reconstruct. That's why if you leave me the choice in terms of votation between this and this, I would always prefer deconstruction to reconstruction. But to the extent that deconstruction is not destruction.